This build absolutely nukes enemies in the new dungeon. Knights, wizards, ogres, you name it. This will absolutely melt them. Such a fun build. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my young Hamkara spine build that I have here with all the different mods, aspects, and fragments that I'm using for the dungeon right here. And in the gameplay that you see behind you, I'm actually trying to just use nothing but abilities just to demonstrate how fast you can actually infinitely spam when you do this right. I obviously could be shooting weapons like Forbearance, for example, that's going to give me more health regeneration and allow me to stay alive longer. I could be shooting a variety of different weapons in combination with this, but just for the gameplay sake, I wanted to show you just how much ability spam is possible and how fast you can actually melt all of the adds in this dungeon encounter with this crazy build. So first things first, we're going to be using Blade Barrage as our super with young Hamkaras. For the dodge, we're definitely using Gambler's Dodge, so when we dodge near enemies, we'll get a melee back. That's going to be very integral to the gameplay loop that we're doing. Triple jump is just the jump I always use in PvE. And then we have Knife Trick. This is definitely the knife you want to use for this build. The grenade is of course going to be the trip mine grenade. That's the exact grenade that synergizes with the gauntlets. You can't use another grenade for this build, so trip mines are definitely the only option. And as far as aspects go, I'm going with Knock 'em down and I'm going with On Your Mark. I know that Gunpowder Gamble has been changed a little bit, but still not very good, so we're still going with the typical two aspects that we go with for this build. For the fragments, we've got Ember of Resolve, Solar Grenade, Final Blows, Cure You. That's going to be perfect with the Hamkara buffed grenades because they're going to kill any red bar adds that are nearby and majors, which will cure you and keep you alive, along with a variety of other sources that we're going to have to keep you alive. Next part is Ember of Mercy, which is picking up a fire sprite, will grant you restoration. You'll get fire sprites from a variety of different sources, and that restoration is really nice. Plus the plus 10 resilience is nice because you're going to have 100 resilience for your build. The next one is Ember of Torches, which is going to make you radiant, which of course is good for taking out barrier champions, buffing your weapon damage. Always a really solid fragment to use. The next one is Ember of Searing, defeating Scorched target grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. Again, more fire sprites, which is going to give us restoration, which is definitely what we want. And then we have Ember of Singeing, your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets to create the perfect gameplay loop of infinite grenade, infinite melee, and infinite dodge spam. For the mods, starting with the helmet, I chose to go with double ashes to assets and a dynamo just simply for the demonstration of how fast I can get my super back with this. However, if you're doing this with a team or something, you could run something more like heavy ammo finder, or if you're shooting something like a Forbearance at enemies, you could easily slap on an arc siphon as well. A heavy ammo finder, an arc siphon, and one ashes to assets would work just fine for a team build. For the gauntlets, we went with heavy handed, which I know might seem surprising because we're throwing so many extremely powerful grenades, but your melee is also extremely powerful, and when you throw this melee, you'll be great orbs that will also heal you with recuperation on the boots. And what I was doing was I was purposely targeting the red bar adds for the melee because the melee can kill the red bars, and when I kill the red bars, I'll make more orbs because there's more red bar enemies, and then I can save my grenade more for majors and targeting bigger targets because it does so much damage. And sometimes those grenades would also kill enemies, so you could rock heavy-handed and rock firepower at the same time if you really wanted to. For this gameplay, I just used heavy-handed and then I went with double focusing strike, which would grant me class ability energy when I cause damage with my melee, so that way I could loop all three abilities together effortlessly. For the chest piece, I went with melee damage resist because we're getting so close up in every enemy's face, especially in this encounter. And then we went with arc and void resistance. For the boots, we're using recuperation. It's not entirely necessary to use this, but I just like it for a little more survivability. Obviously, if you're rocking something like a Sand Forbearance, has Unrelenting on it, you wouldn't really need recuperation at all, but for the sake of survivability, I slapped this on while I was just running around spamming abilities in this encounter. For the other mods, we went with a double insulation, which is going to get us more class ability energy from picking up an orb of power. And lastly, on the class side, we went with distribution, powerful attraction, and utility kickstart. This makes it so every time you dodge, you're going to pick up all the orbs nearby. When you use your entire class ability up, you get energy back immediately, and then you also get a cooldown on all of your abilities with distribution, kind of well-rounding the build overall. Lastly, for the stats, we went with 100 resilience, 100 discipline, and then I went with as much mobility as I could possibly get. I got 60 mobility, got 60 recovery, intellect not entirely necessary, strength not entirely necessary because you're going to dodge your enemies to get that melee back 99% of the time. The gameplay loop is really strong, and this build is super powerful in this dungeon. It's definitely a toss-up for me whether or not I would run arc for the solo dungeon or solar, but if I were to run solar for solo dungeon, I would definitely choose this build. Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you want to see another crazy arc hunter build, click on this video right here. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Later.